I don't think my journey's unique. The people that listen to this and the people you've mentioned earlier and have had on, they're all high achievers. Okay. And I think it's the trap all high achievers can come into. And I think it gets exponentially more dangerous as you get older. Number one, you put too much pressure on yourself and you don't trust God for results. You think it all depends on you. That's number one. You neglect quiet times. You neglect taking care of yourself physically, exercise, rest. You just work all the time. And boy, that's a badge of honor because I don't need much sleep, that kind of thing.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You don't develop the team. And there may be good reasons for that. Number one, I got work to do. I hired you to do a job. We've trained you, but you don't develop the team. All of these things that are just standard landmines for high performers. I stepped on all of them.
Welcome to the Age of Lions podcast, a platform and community dedicated to bringing purpose, strategy, and calling to kingdom-minded people who are 50 plus and excited about their next chapter. Here's your host, Mark Clement.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 24 of the Age of Lions podcast. So glad that you're with us today. As you just heard, that is our special guest today, Brian Dodd. I'm going to tell you more about Brian Dodd in just a second, but you need to be excited because this guy is a killer leader and full of wisdom. And I can't wait for you to hear from him today and learn from him. Just wanted to kick this off today with a few announcements and some things that are coming up. As I always say at the beginning, I want to make sure to encourage you to like, subscribe, comment on whatever platform you're using to listen to this, whether it's Spotify or iHeartRadio or Apple Podcasts or YouTube. If you're watching there, glad to have you on YouTube. Get in the queue so you get the updates on when things come out. And then also, I'd love for you to go to ageoflions.com, which is our homepage, our home website, and get on our mailing list so that you're getting occasionally a text or an email from us about things that are coming up or special things that we're working on. Love for you to join that community. And this is really important for you to get inside the community and communicate with me and with us because it's not about me. This is not my thing. I just happen to be the kind of the facilitator, the moderator, whatever you would call it. I'm asking the questions. I'm sitting there right next to you going, hey, I want to learn about this, learn about that, and do this thing called aging well and with purpose and intentionality. And so we'd love to get you in the loop so that we can learn from you and get the questions you want answered, asked, and to make sure we're doing the things that interest you and are feeding you as you're getting into this journey as well. So love to have you part of the community. Before we get into the episode today, I wanted to tell you we're entering the Christmas season. This is the week before Christmas. And so over Christmas week and New Year's week, it was kind of a debate about should we put another episode up or not. And there's some different opinions out there about when good times for people to listen are or not. And you could look at it and go, well, we're not working as much. Maybe we got a little free time. Maybe we're on a trip, road trip, whatever, and we're listening. But the truth is, most of the time when people kind of get out of their routines, get out of their normal flow, they're less likely to listen, at least not the way that they normally do. And so I want to honor your time, but also I don't want to waste a guest in a week where we may just not get as many visitors or listeners or watchers just naturally because it's the wrong time of the year. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go on hold for those 2 weeks as far as guests go. I do have a couple of things I'm going to get on and just do some kind of mini episodes and share with you guys some thoughts about a couple of things here and there. So we still will be posting and love for you to join us. But if you don't, or if you can't or whatever, you're not going to miss anybody. The other thing we're going to do while we're in that break is we will be promoting the 24 episodes that have happened so far. In case you've missed any of those, we've had some amazing guests. I've really been blown away by the quality of guests that we've had and the people who've said yes. And there's more of those to come in the new year. I cannot wait for you to hear some of the people who are coming up. It's really amazing what God is doing and how He's blessing this. But if you get a chance over the holidays, go back and listen to some episodes that you might have missed, and we'll promote some of those. Like I said, have a couple of smaller episodes we put up where we just share a little bit and talk about some things that are on my heart and kind of getting you ready for the future. So get excited about that. It's going to be a fun season. Hope you're going to get some time off. Hope you're going to get to rest, be with your family, maybe travel a little bit, or maybe for you staying home and resting is what you need to do. That's what we do. We don't really travel anywhere much. So it's going to be a great season. And I can't wait for what's coming in the new year. And we're going to talk about that as we kind of go forward. So also wanted to share with you, I just got back from an incredible camping trip. As many of you know, if you've been listening, I went on a big trip back in September. Kind of a mini practice trip in August and a big trip in September with a group of guys. And Chris Bruno, who was on here a couple of weeks ago, is the leader of that organization called Restoration Project. A great episode if you didn't get a chance to hear that one. But it really has stirred something in me about getting outside, being more adventurous. I just got to a point earlier this year where I was like, I got to get off the couch. Ironically, I'm sitting on the couch right now, but I got to get off the couch and got to get outside, got to do some different things. And I've really fallen in love with that aspect of it. I've always been a hiker, love to go on a hike, a day hike here or there, but never really camped in this way. And so me and a buddy, David Murphy, went out on camping this weekend, carrying all of our stuff, getting off the beaten path, not a car camping, not glamping, but actually out in it. And man, it was a crazy weekend. We had a 45-degree weather swing from the first day to the second day. We knew that going in, so we were prepared for it. But man, it went from like almost hot on the first day to freezing cold the second day, and almost down to 0 wind chill factor the last night that we would have been there. So crazy weekend in that way. But man, we had a blast just out in the woods, sharing and talking, encouraging each other, sharing our stories. And I'm just sharing that to say, hey, whatever your thing is, I want to encourage you to get out there and do it. Don't get complacent. Don't get comfortable. This year for me has been a really big year of change, and this podcast is a big result of that. And so whatever your thing is, I hope you're thinking about doing something different, doing more, finding your purpose, finding some intentionality, feeding your soul, whatever that looks like for you. I'm just telling you, I'm living proof that it's a game changer. And we'll share more about that as we go forward. But it was a great weekend, and I just got back from that last night, and it was amazing. So anyway, excited for this episode. Can't wait to kind of share some things with you over the holidays. They're going to be a little bit different. So enjoy this time with Brian Dodd. Brian Dodd is he's just such a cool guy. He's very unassuming. You'd never know this about him, but he has the number 2 or 3 leadership blog in the world. He's built this thing over 20 to 30 years. It's been an amazing run. He's written books. He's an executive with a company called InJoy Stewardship. InJoy was started by John Maxwell years ago, and then it's been sold a couple times. And Brian has been there through it all. And he's like their top producer and one of their key leaders. And we're going to talk about some of the lessons he's learned as he's gone through that process and that journey of a long career in one place. And what he's accomplished with that. But Brian is just one of those guys who he has some incredible wisdom, even though he's kind of an all shucks kind of, there's not a lot of ego with Brian. He just kind of tells it like it is. And I love this guy, and I can't wait for you guys to learn from him. I know I learned a ton, and you're going to learn too. So lean in and get excited about listening to this interview with Brian Dodd.
Hey, Brian Dodd. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm so good, man. Thank you so much for saying yes to this. I'm super honored that you would take the time to be on here with me and talk about this topic.
Well, I tell you, it is a unique topic, and when I got your text to join, I remember when I was in my mid 30s, I went into a shoe store, and I grew up in the 80s, and I asked the young lady at the counter, I said, "Hey, I'm looking for some tennis shoes, and they need to be kind of like all white, like Pumas, if you know what that brand is." And she goes, "Oh, yes, sir. Those are the classics back over there in the corner." And so when I got your text to join you and the subject matter, I had a flashback to, oh, yeah, you're one of the classics back there in the corner. So, that's yes, right. I'm thrilled to be here. So,
yeah, classic. And we're pushing into that all white.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, man, it's so good to see you. We were before we started recording, Brian and I were kind of catching up, and we were trying to remember the last time we were physically in the same place together. And I think it was 2019 or early 2020 with Sean Lovejoy at a conference he did in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. And so we got to hang out there for a minute. But Brian and I have known each other for 20 plus years, kind of moved in similar circles in the church world. And my creative company did a lot of capital campaigns for people like him and his clients and other companies. And so we've just kind of been in a circle of knowing each other. Brian's a great leadership expert and has blogged and posted and speaks, and like he's done it all. So he's one of my favorites, and I'm so glad we had time to do this today. So hey, we ask everybody, the first question we always ask is, and you kind of alluded to this a second ago, but what is that moment when you kind of went, I still feel good, I look okay, I'm doing all right, but I am a little older than I might like to think that I am. What was that moment for you?
Well, just to give everybody context, at the time of the recording, I'm 59. I turned 60 in February of 2026.
Okay.
But at the time of the recording, I'm 59. I remember when I was 54 and I'm getting my eyes checked because it became harder to read. And the optometrist, once again, a nice young lady, she looks at me after doing the eye test and she goes, "Well, Mr. Dodd, you have fought valiantly, but Father Time is still undefeated. You need some glasses." And at that point, I kind of realized I was entering this new era of my life when I was told, "Mr. Dodd, you have fought valiantly."
Yeah.
So
that's so funny. How old were you? Did you say how old were you?
54 when that happened.
54. Well, you were doing pretty good. Most people, it happens a lot sooner than that. That's for sure. My one of the early episodes, I had my brothers on, and we were just having fun being brothers and talking about this topic. And we're all north of 50 now. And my middle brother, who has always had the best eyesight in the family, he had like some people have 20/20. He had like 20/10, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it's like really good eyesight.
Yeah.
And he said on his 40th birthday, like on the day, he's like, I woke up and I could not focus on anything close to me. And it is one of those things. And a lot of people don't know this. I love to share this little tidbit. I probably picked it up playing Trivial Pursuit or something, but the issue there is not that your eyesight is bad, like your actual eyesight might still be 20/20 or whatever, but the lens that focuses and does the close in, it gets thicker as you get older. And so it just can't bend as much as it did when you were younger. And that's why things start to get fuzzy, because your lens just can't go as far as it used to go. And the same thing is true for the reason that older people get dizzy or can't ride roller coasters and stuff easily is because the fluid in your ear that helps you keep balance. And, I'm not a doctor. None of these are technical terms, but whatever that liquid is, it gets thicker as well. And so when if it gets extremely out of balance, it's just like syrup. It just takes a long time for it to come back into the balance. And that's why we struggle. So it is, like you said, Father Time is undefeated. That's a new line I'm going to keep. I like that a lot.
Look, you can push him into overtime, but he's still undefeated. So
yeah, sooner or later he's going to get you.
Yeah,
that's a great line. What would you say is the main way you feel different now than you did when you were younger? What's a couple of key differences that you've noticed?
Well, we work in a production environment, and that's just the nature of it. I'm sure we'll unpack that in a little bit. I've realized more and more, and you've got to manage it well, but all I can do is all I can do.
Yeah.
And then God needs to do what only God can do. And I still worry about what I call the numbers and all of that, but
sure,
nothing to the extent that I used to, like let's say our owner elevates the intensity about a specific goal. Okay. This is where you've got to manage it and be respectful and those type of things. But you're just sitting there going, I appreciate all this chaos going on around me, but I've been doing this 23 years. I'm going to do everything I can do. but God's going to have to do what only God can do. Now, that doesn't absolve me of continual improvement and things of that nature.
Exactly.
I mean, we'll get into that as well about how do you really maximize influence as you get older. It doesn't absolve me of continual learning and all those things. But I'm not as results driven as I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm just now I will say this, I'm far more process driven than I used to be.
Yeah.
So I really still micromanage my own process. But the results, as long as I'm micromanaging my process, sometimes I'm less outcome biased, I think is a good way to put it, than I used to be.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, wouldn't you say a lot of that's just perspective? You've had some reps, you know how this tends to go, you know what it takes to get there. So you just, you don't sweat the small stuff quite as much as you did in your 30s or 40s. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you understand that the Lord gives and the Lord takes away, and no tree grows all the way to the sky, and everything's not up and right all the time. There's some jagged moments in there.
Sure.
And you also know there's 4 seasons.
Yeah.
There's winter, which is a time of planting and preparation. There's spring, which is hard work, breaking the ground, tilling the soil, planting the seed. You get some initial growth out of that, but that's a time of hard work. Summer is a time of drought and heat and waiting and praying for rain. And if you manage all the seasons properly, then you get your harvest.
That's right.
And sometimes it's drought season.
That's right.
And you've just got to, as I've gotten older, I can just recognize the seasons better.
Yeah.
So
I often tell people, being in business for myself, it's, I've learned not to worry if it gets a little slower here or there. The reality is I really appreciate those times because it gives me a chance to breathe and catch up. And I know it's not going to stay that way. I know it's going to swing back up. And some of that is time of the year. Some of it's just the natural flow of work and business. Like this time of year, typically December, it slows down. Everybody's kind of pulls back. Everybody's waiting for the new year. People aren't hiring, whatever the thing is.
sure.
It's just pretty normal. People are distracted. And there was a time in my life when I was like, man, what am I going to do? And now 57 years in, you go, it's just December. It'll be fine. January will be different, so you just don't worry about it. And you prepare better. You plan better. I'm going to have some down months or this and that. So you save more, all the stuff that goes with that. So yeah. That experience is invaluable. And until you go through it, you can't really learn it until you've just experienced it, I think, no matter how much somebody tries to tell you.
Right. And, that's just wisdom. And we'll get into this also. But how do you get wisdom? From experience. Well, how do you get experience? From mistakes.
Yeah.
And
sometimes yours own, sometimes others.
Yeah.
But usually
you want to
own.
learn from other people as much as possible. But sometimes you got to go through that school of hard knocks as part of your education. So,
yeah. When Jim Shepard was on here, he said something great. He said, I'm going to misquote this a little bit, but the gist of it was, there's just nothing that replaces the repeated get up, work, go to bed, get up, work, do your thing, go to bed. And when you have thousands and thousands of reps, it's just different than when you have hundreds of reps.
Well, and Jim and I are in the same space, and
That's right.
And I support exactly what Jim says. Consistency beats intensity any day of the week and twice on Sunday.
That's right.
And I'll quote John Maxwell, your success is found in your daily agenda.
Mm.
And, I know this in the podcast for that, unless you want to go there, I could go into how I have structured and systematized my daily production.
Yeah.
And I try to teach that to young people because young people are always looking for the next great invention or the next great idea or the silver bullet or something of that nature. And I'm just like, look, get you a good system, continually mold it and shape it and improve and grow and don't stay static, but get you a good system and consistency will beat intensity. And look, sometimes they listen to me, sometimes they don't. They're just like I was at that age, so I don't get offended or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, I totally agree with Jim 100%.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about that consistency. It seems like everybody I've talked to who I would I would call a successful person. I'm not talking about money. I just mean they're successful and they're doing what they're called to do. They're good at it. They have good purpose. And the worldly version of success usually follows that, just because that's just the way it works. But they're successful because they're happy and they're content and they're doing the right things. But they all will tell you that it really does come down to, what do I do every day? What do I do the same every day? And, football season, we talk a lot. Nick Saban, his, trust the process and all the stuff he would talk about. My pastor, Pastor Chris Hodges, I've heard him say so many times, he goes, if you look at my daily life, it's pretty boring. Like, every day I'm not on a stage speaking somewhere. Like, this is just on Sunday, or just if I get an opportunity. But the daily thing is not sexy. It's not romantic. It's not fun. It's just the same thing over. And he goes, and you can look at any of my schedule. Like, I'm 30 minutes here, I'm an hour there. And it's very much the same every single day. And then you see the fruit, in his life. You see the fruit in your life. You see the fruit in Jim's life. Anybody we talk about, it's that same. You're 100% right. Consistency over intensity, all day long, and twice on Sunday. I love that. Right. That's so good. Well, talk about this for me as you're getting older, as we all are. What are you doing to kind of invest in yourself for longevity, health, staying fit, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically? Like, what are some things you're doing now in that discipline of the daily stuff to help make sure you go strong as long as you can?
Yeah, there's like 5 different categories in that question. That's so right. All of them have their own answer.
Yeah, you pick.
But anyway, I'll try to make it quick. In terms of learning, just getting smarter. So I work with church leaders primarily. I also do some things on the side in the athletic and business space, but primarily with church leaders. Okay. They're very smart people. I have to get smarter. In the industry I work in, which is the church consulting world, there's a sweet spot of about 45 to 55. I've noticed that's a sweet spot. And the reason is, number one, you're not some hotshot 30-something-year-old who grew a church to 300 and now you're a coach. And I apologize if I've minimized anybody by saying that. But you've got some successes, you've got some failures, you've had to make some hard decisions, you got some scars, but you got some trophies, and you're still young enough and vibrant enough that you can own a room and you're creative and you're high energy and all those things. So I'll really unpack this when we get to that point. But I realized as I began to pass that, how hard I would have to work to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing I would tell all aging leaders: be prepared to work hard to stay relevant. I write every day. I read every day. I study every day. I don't know if this is going to be on YouTube or how you'll do it. I try to learn a new idea every day and write it down.
Yeah.
Okay. Every day I'm trying to learn and grow. That's part of my daily. You sit there and you say, well, what'd you do today? Well, I worked my call list. I followed up well. I connected with these people. I read 20 or 30 pages. I came up with I learned one thing I didn't know. There's nothing spectacular in that one day.
Yeah.
Okay. You compound that over 365 days, you've done something significant.
That's right.
Relationally, my wife and I are empty nesters. We have a date night every Thursday. So I think I can speak for her as well. It's our favorite night of the week. We always go out and have a great time and, things of that nature. I've joined a men's Bible study. So that way, relationally, this is very important too. And I was taught this by somebody else. As I get older, anybody that gets older, your friend group naturally shrinks.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. Number one, people move away, you retire, people die. I hate to point that out, but that happens. You can't relate to other generations like you once could. Your friend network shrinks. I work real hard to keep mine expanding.
Yeah.
So I've joined a men's small group. I'm doing some stuff, like I said, with the business and athletic communities. I volunteer at my church in the hospitality, which means you get people of a lot of different ages. So relationally, I'm always trying to expand my friend group. With my wife, date night's our funnest day of the week. Obviously, spiritually, I try to grow through quiet times and Bible studies and reading. Intellectually, I read every day. So these are the things that I attempt to do to, I'll call it, systematize my relativeness.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I write books is to stay relevant. It keeps your name out there in front of people. So these are things that I really do to be cognizant that as I get older, I've aged out of my sweet spot, but I can make up that gap very quickly and even pass people in that sweet spot by doing all the things I just mentioned.
That's right. That's right. When William Vanderbloemen was on here, he talked about the constant need to stretch in all those areas, which is literally what you're saying, constantly stretching, growing, to fight what he called the calcification of time. And I thought that was really brilliant, because it really does put into focus exactly what you're saying of it's the constant routine of challenging yourself, trying new things. And that is the gravitational pull, if you will, is to not do that. It's to just take it easy. It's to just get comfortable. And I know you've heard people say this a million times. I don't know who the original quote came from, but comfort and growth cannot coexist in the same space.
Coexist.
They can't coexist. And it's just such a natural desire for us to want to be comfortable as we get older for myriad reasons.
Well, there's natural drifts. Okay. Yeah. We don't drift to challenge. We drift to comfort. We don't drift to generosity. We drift to greed.
That's right.
We don't drift to unity. We drift to dysfunction. And so these are natural drifts. They're the part of the human condition, the sinful nature, they're the human condition. And it gets harder as you get older, not easier. And you just have to know that and really prepare to fight those battles at a level you really haven't fought them at before.
That's right. And not only that, but I think the slope is actually getting steeper as you get older. Yeah. So the climb is much harder and the go down is much easier. And it is unfortunately where so many people default to. We often say on here, the only place you can coast is downhill. You can't coast.
That is the only place you can go. Anything, and John Maxwell, anything worth doing is uphill. Yeah,
it is. It requires stretch and as we've been having these conversations and talking to different leaders who are really embodying this, that's sort of the whole idea. Is I want the audience, myself included, to really be pushed and really be challenged and really be inspired by others who are like, no, you can do this. You can. There's a way. It's not easy. It is hard. It does take hard work. It is uphill. All the metaphors, but it is worth it in the end because of the fruit that can be produced and the impact that can be had. And, I think so many times as we get older, we're thinking so much about legacy and what we're leaving behind and who we're touching, influencing. And that doesn't happen sitting on the couch. It's, you gotta get up and do something.
Well, that is a legacy if you stay on the couch.
It is a legacy. That's right. That's a great point. You will leave a legacy, but it may not be the one you want.
Yeah, people go, I don't want to talk about legacy. It sounds narcissistic. Well, okay. I mean, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine, but we're all going to leave one.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about it at your funeral.
Exactly.
Whether you talked about it or not. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, when we were first kind of connecting over you being on here today, you mentioned to me that you had a few years ago kind of this big epiphany, revelation, whatever you would call that, about aging and purpose and all this stuff. So I'd love for you just to talk and share about what you have been, what that was and what you've been learning about it since.
Yeah, I've not, this will be in my next book. Okay. But it really is one of the more significant things that's ever happened in my life. And I'm going to be very transparent about it. So in 2019, I was done with my company and they were done with me. And I'll go ahead and say this before I begin to unpack it. The real hero of that journey was our owner, Joe Sangle.
Yeah.
Having patience and shepherding through that era. But what has happened is, and a lot of people on here are leaders, they can probably relate to this. I was carrying a pretty disproportionate weight of our organization's success. And you can only climb Mount Everest so many times.
Yeah.
And every year there was another Mount Everest. And I'd been climbing Mount Everest almost 20 years, and I was burnt out.
Yeah.
And it was beginning to show. And my patience with other people was, razor thin. I was still bringing quality work. So, that's one of the reasons I think Joe kept me around, is because the measurables were still very good, so that was there. But man, I was a tough bear to deal with, and like you would not want to invite me into any type of creative meeting. Because I've been doing this for years. We've already tried that 5 times. Here's been the results next. Okay. I mean, it was not good. And so it was a rough period.
Yeah. And I just have to say, for the sake of the audience, knowing you as long as I have, this is very out of character for you. I mean, to have been that way, which I'm just saying that to say that just demonstrates how hard it must have been and how burnout you must have been. Yeah. So I'm just saying that to give you credit, because I know that's not who you actually are, but I totally understand. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, but then February 7th, 2020 came. And the reason I remember that is that was my 54th birthday. Mm. Now, remember, I've already pointed out in our industry that 45 to 55 sweet spot. Okay, so that's kind of hovering over all this. And so that was my birthday, and me and my wife and Mike Lynch and his daughter, Mary Michael. Mike Lynch is my pastor at North Star Church in Kennesaw, Georgia. We attended a John Maxwell filming for his book, The Leader's Greatest Return. Okay. And so back then, and they still may do it now, when a book is released, you'd also release a coaching course to go with it, as part of the financial rollout and products of a new project.
Right. And
so we were at 12 Stone Church, and John's going through the filming of all 12 chapters of that book, kind of an all-day filming. And The Leader's Greatest Return, just to take 250 pages and simplify it into a couple of paragraphs, is that if you're faithful for long enough, your greatest return is all these people you have invested in are now producing, and you're reaping the rewards of all of this you've invested in. Yeah. That's the leader's greatest return. So we're driving home, stuck in Atlanta traffic, and it was like God said to me, Brian, you are leaving the relevant stage. And if you work really, really hard and are intentional, you can probably get another 10, 15 years out of this, assuming I give you the breath to do that, But Brian, if you don't start investing in the next generation, whenever you die or whenever you retire, this 3 decades of experience that I have invested in you retires or dies with you.
Wow.
And I made a decision that day, driving home, and I didn't tell anybody about it, because I don't want to be that guy, hey, I read a book or went to a conference and now I'm going to give the whole organization whiplash and we're going to do something different. And every time Brian goes somewhere, everybody's going to be in fear for when I come back, that type of thing. I didn't tell a soul. But I made a decision that day that I would spend the rest of my career investing in all the 20 and 30 somethings on our team. Mm. And here's and I didn't tell anybody. I just did it. Now they all know it now, because it's been 5 years of that. But here's what I learned, Mark. When I began as a seasoned, experienced, I'll use the quotations, wise person within the organization.
Sure.
When I began to take that and leverage that to multiply it through the next generation, I have never been, in over 20 years in this industry, more happy, more fulfilled, more joyful, and yes, I will point this out, more profitable than I have at any other time during my career. And so now, yeah, everything I do is about pointing to the next people and saying, hey, look, I'm going to, at best 5-10 years, I'm done. You're the guy, you're the lady. Okay. I'm here to invest in you. I'm here to set you up. You're going to be the boss one day. By the way, if I'm working for you when that happens, please treat me nicely, but yeah, I'm going to spend my life giving my life away to the people in our organization. And the returns have been beyond anything I would have ever imagined.
Wow. That's amazing, man. That is so cool that you had that epiphany at that moment. How hard was it to make the pivot? Because I've been there when God tells you to do something, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. What was that process like for you to kind of do that 180 and go, okay, I'm going to take a different focus, different energy, different skill set? What was that like?
Here's the interesting thing. Desperate people are the most likely to change.
Yeah.
With anything.
Sure.
And because of what had happened in August of the previous year, yeah, I was ready for the change. And to be honest, now the process of getting to February the 7th was extraordinarily difficult. But when February the 7th arrived, and between a full day of John Maxwell teaching and God putting that impression on me driving home, no, the switch was very easy. Okay. Now, here's another thing that was looking back, that was good I didn't tell anybody. When you're going through that period, you're not the most popular person in the organization, So, yeah, you've got to win back trust over time. And you can't say, hey, today I'm going to start investing in people. It's actually got to happen over an extended period of time. So it was good I didn't tell anybody. But making the change was easy because I was desperate. Getting to the point of desperation, no, that was a challenge. And, once again, credit goes to Joe Sangle for being patient during that time. Yeah. But yeah, desperate people are the ones most likely to change.
Yeah. I've always heard the saying that change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing.
Absolutely.
And then we do it. So I'm glad to hear that it wasn't that hard to make the decision and start doing it. What were some practical steps? Like what practically did you start doing to pour into people around you?
Yeah. I mean, here's some very practical and easy things. If you're sitting there in like a collaborative session or a training session, you actually actively listen and learn and ask the opinion of the next generation. And then you're affirmed like, hey, that is a good idea. I've not thought about that. And you actually do try to learn and implement. You give people your stage. Hey, why don't you lead this part of the meeting? They've heard from me a million times. They know what I'm going to say. Why don't you go? By the way, when you get up there, here's what they want to hear. Now, you put it in your context and you put it in your personality, but make sure you cover these 2 or 3 things because that's what they want to hear. Yeah. When it came time to give reports, you make them the 4th person of the Trinity. That's how I like to explain it. Hey, they're not having a great month this month, but let me tell you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing they're doing this, and this, and those things are going to lead to success. So I'm very excited about the future. Yeah. And look, you got to believe it. I mean, people see through it if you don't believe it. So you got to believe it, which is why I love saying I see this, and this. I mean, I'm building a case to myself first, but then to everybody else. No, you just champion them, give them the platform, set them up, promote them, encourage them. Always point to them. If I can say this, I've been with my company over 23 years. Okay. The award for my department is named after me. Okay. My legacy is set. in terms of production. Okay. I have nothing to prove. Therefore, my focus is totally on them, totally on sustainability, totally on the next generation, totally on what happens after I walk out the door. I've run my race. I don't need the platform anymore. Sometimes you love that spotlight. I don't need the spotlight anymore. No, it's them. They're the future. They're the sustainable ones. They're the ones I point to.
Yeah. Sounds like you have really done a great job of moving into what we might call the sage stage. Actually interviewed a guy, and this hasn't, it may have already come out by the time yours comes out. I'm not sure, but his name is Chris Bruno, and he runs an organization called Restoration Project. It's a men's ministry out of Colorado. And he's written a book called Sage, which is about that sort of second half of life. And it's usually around 60 when people kind of move into that. It's not a hard number, but it's general thinking. And he talks about that very thing. And it sounds like you've really done a good job of his little one-liner that he likes to say is you can either become elderly or you can become an elder. And just talking about the difference between those two things. And it sounds like you really made a very clear decision. I want to be an elder. I want, in that positive way, I want to be influencing people, teaching people, coaching people, encouraging people. Sounds like you made that. That's the decision you decided.
Yeah. And once again, I'd love to say that I had this great plan and it was all part of this process I had written out. And no, it wasn't like that. I mean, all great things in this world are birthed out of pain. Mm-hmm. And the place where I'm at in my career, it was birthed out of pain, you know, and so hopefully there's people listening to this that are like, okay, let's learn from Brian on this one. We don't have to go through the pain. Arthur Brooks wrote a great book called Strength to Strength.
Okay.
And he talks about, I'll call it fluid. It's fluid knowledge versus crystallized knowledge. Yeah. Fluid knowledge is just mental raw horsepower. I mean, you got an idea every minute and all that kind of thing. Well, your prefrontal cortex starts deteriorating in your early 40s. And therefore, you have to make the switch because just frankly, you're not the man or woman you used to be. You have to make the switch that, yes, you still got fluid knowledge. I mean, I still got to produce. The company gives me a salary expecting a certain output based upon the financial investment they make in me.
Right.
So that fluid knowledge still has to be there. But the real value I bring, you use the word sage, we'll call it crystallized knowledge, sage, something of that nature. I developed this little formula that I use, which hopefully will help some people, that as you're kind of going from that, if you're either going to be elderly or an elder, okay, or you're going to be a sage or a grumpy old man, this is what I think. If you take wisdom, experience, and institutional knowledge, plus creativity, energy, fresh ideas, and new perspectives, that's the growth component, that equals multiple generational impact. So when it comes to dealing with the next generation, those are the things I focus on. Take my experiences, my institutional knowledge, my understanding of the market, the relationships, all those things, but continually grow and innovate and get better and learn new things, and then pass those down. That's what allows me, and I think pretty much anybody, to have multi-generational impact.
Yeah, that's great. Let me ask you this: for the people who you mentioned, hopefully they'll learn from your mistakes. What would you say some of the mistakes you were making were that kind of led you to a place of needing to make this change? You obviously, like I said, I know you and I know your character and I know who you are. And for you to kind of slip into this season, what were some things you were ignoring or that you missed or decisions you made that you wish you'd have made differently? How did you kind of go from you thriving to you burned out and on the brink of this decision having to happen?
Yeah, and I don't think my journey's unique. The people that listen to this and the people you've mentioned earlier and have had on, they're all high achievers. Okay. And I think it's the trap all high achievers can come into. And I think it gets exponentially more dangerous as you get older. Number one, you put too much pressure on yourself and you don't trust God for results. You think it all depends on you. That's number one. You neglect quiet times. You neglect taking care of yourself physically, exercise, rest. You just work all the time. And boy, that's a badge of honor because I don't need much sleep, that kind of thing.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You don't develop the team. And there may be good reasons for that. Number one, I got work to do. I hired you to do a job. We've trained you, but you don't develop the team. All of these things that are just standard landmines for high performers. I stepped on all of them, and look, I was still writing books during this time. I was still running the leadership website. I was still speaking. People would put me up on stuff and I'd have a good story to tell, but the day in, day out was just an unsustainable pace.
Yeah.
And once again, credit goes to Joe Sangle for having patience when, the train finally came to a sudden halt.
Yeah.
And I don't think my story in terms of how the mistakes happened and the crash happened is unique at all. I think everything I just said is probably every person who listens to your podcast is probably susceptible to all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think everybody is, especially leaders, especially hard charging types of people who are innovating and making things happen. Like that is sort of the dicey side of that. You got the cutting edge on one side, but the backside can be pretty rough sometimes because of and I'm guilty of all those things too. I've definitely fallen into those traps and it's, as I've coached people over the years, so a lot of times I'll tell people success might be the worst thing that could happen to you right now. Like, because you think you've got to figure it out and you don't need God anymore. And it's, better, like you're not, what you would never say that if someone asked you, but your actions and the way you're living your life are saying, no, I don't need that. I'm good. And it's usually the troubled moment when we turn back to him for that very reason.
Yeah. And Mark, you and I work in the same space. We work with churches for a living. And we, unfortunately, have seen a lot of people. Fortunately, I've got a great story to tell on the back end.
Yeah.
But you and I both know a lot of people that their crash was dramatic. And some of them don't have a great story to tell. So there, by the grace of God, go I.
That's right.
Nothing but mercy for those individuals.
Yeah.
But these are the things high achievers are, susceptible to.
Yeah. And you're right. As we make those decisions, you might call them micro decisions, but that lead us to that place of burnout or that place of stress, that's when we're the most susceptible to make a dumb decision. And I'll quote my pastor again. He says, we're all one dumb decision away from
that's it.
Really ruin a lifetime of good work sometimes. And it's all it takes. And so
can I tell you about a second defining moment?
100%. Go ahead.
Okay. So I did write about this in my book, The Games Leaders Play. So I'm going to read out of that.
Okay.
I'm in a Bible study with high school, collegiate, and professional baseball scouts and coaches.
Oh, interesting.
And some media are in there also. So it's a nationwide Zoom Bible study. About 100 of us get on there every week. And, when I would get on there and talk, my view of success was very results oriented. Because I live in a world of KPIs and did you hit your goals? And if you are, you're bonused for it. And it's just the world I live in.
Yeah.
And there's a coach by the name of Rusty Strapp. He coached at Gardner-Webb for many years. He coached college baseball for over 30 years, won over 800 games. Really just one of the godliest and kindest men I've ever met. And one day he was on that study and he said these words, and I'm just going to read them off because I don't want to get them wrong, or I don't want to paraphrase. He said, "We may be planting seeds that produce shade trees we may never rest under. We may see it 15, 20 years down the road. We may never see it. We're results oriented as coaches, but our greatest blessings we might not ever know until we get to heaven. The wins and losses that involve sports on scoreboards have kind of all meshed together with me as I finished up coaching. The bad memories and the good memories are all, there's games I wish I could have had back and would have won and wins that were great, but it all kind of runs together. Emotions are the same now because I remember losing a tournament championship game in 15 innings. We had a 2-run lead in 2008. We gave up 3 in the bottom of the 15th, lose a chance to go to the regional. And as we were on the bus, it was a 10-hour ride back from Florida. Me and my assistant coaches were talking, and we got down the road a little bit, and we looked at each other. It kind of feels like we won. It's really weird because each of the 3 had something of such greater importance in life than the score of that baseball game. It was with those relationships and those kids. The greatest privilege to me and the greatest memories I had were not the wins and tough losses and great wins. Those were good, but it was 20 years later, which this past summer, I had a player who I coached 20-something years ago, and his wife sat down with me in my living room and poured out their hearts about their marriage struggles. We were able to counsel through that together. That's more important than any win or loss that ever happened on the field or that kid or anything. The greatest victories will never take place on a ball field. If you have your priorities right, the Lord will use every win, loss, every relationship for his glory.
Wow.
When he said that, I thought, I've won a lot of church contracts.
Sure.
And I've lost a lot. Okay. After 20-something years, they kind of all blend together. It's what you remember is the relationships.
Yeah.
And he said out of those 837 wins and multiple championships and in the Tennessee Coaches Hall of Fame, the greatest victory was helping a former player hold his marriage together.
Yeah.
When he said those words, I thought that is the essence of leadership.
Yeah.
It's changed lives along the way. If you're in any industry long enough, you're going to have some wins. You're going to have some losses. Things are going to stack on each other and your resume is going to build up to be pretty impressive. What's important is the lives that you changed along the way. When Rusty Strapp said that was another defining mile marker for me because I had judged my success by the scoreboard way too often.
Yeah, man, there's so much in that whole statement that you just went through. I mean, there's no doubt because, I've had similar thoughts lately, just being at this age, 57, and all the places I've worked and all the clients I've had, and all the stuff that you just said. And so much of it is kind of a blur. Not to get into the old man thing, but life goes by so fast. It's like, yeah, it really does. But to your point, it's so funny you're saying this because I was thinking about that exact thing about. What I remember from those times are the relationships, are the people that I've stayed in touch with. You pick up a few here and there. It's not everybody all the time, and some people in your life for a season and all that stuff. But the accumulation of those relationships and the conversations and the influence and the hard times you go through together and all that is truly what binds you to people and also is the thing that matters, the most. I'd much rather someone come up to me and say something like, they can compliment my work or compliment a video or whatever, that's fine. And I appreciate it. But when someone says, hey, when you held my hand through this thing, or you talked me down, or you had coffee with me and we went through, like, that's, the rest of it, who cares? Like, it is 100% about that, for sure.
Yeah. It's funny, Mark, and once again, this was not a strategy. You and I operate in a very small world. Okay. Yeah. The church world is very small, and the people who serve churches is even smaller. And my daughter is a youth worship tech coordinator, and I tell her, I say, sweetie, don't ever burn any bridges.
That's right.
None. Because you don't know when these things are going to come back around.
That's right.
So yesterday, I'm on a phone call with somebody. It was a Zoom call. And he goes, Brian, you probably don't remember me. Well, the first thing that goes through your mind anytime you hear that is, okay, I hope it was a good interaction.
Right.
And he goes, yeah, back in 2018, you were doing some things with chemistry staffing, and I was a part of that. And I'm just like, okay, well, it's great to reconnect, And so luckily it was a good experience, but that's just one of them. I don't even remember that event. But what lasted was the relationship and the connection you made with people. So that just supports everything you just said. So
it's so true. And I find one of the hardest things to convey to people is sometimes they'll look at someone like you or look at someone like me or whatever, and they'll say, well, you have a platform, you have an audience, you talk to lots of, you're in front of what, and all I have is my family, or I just work a blue collar job or whatever. And I can't over communicate to people how little that has to do with what we're talking about. It sounds like it multiplies the opportunity, and it might in some ways, but I think for most people, they actually have a better opportunity to make real connections just because of the kinds of jobs they have and the family that they have and the things like that. Like that's really where the power in this is. What would you say to someone like that who says, well, I don't have all that, or I don't get to speak to a bunch of people? What would you say to them?
All right. So this is, okay, most of the people listening to this are probably older leaders investing in younger leaders. So this is a great thing, because everybody wants to go on TikTok and do something crazy and be an influencer and instant success, right? Okay. Right. Here's the thing about when it comes to a platform, and then I'm going to support what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
Your job with the platform is to be faithful with what God's provided you.
Yeah.
And then let God grow your platform. Faithfulness is the key to platform expansion. And then ironically, your responsibility is faithfulness. Then God's responsibility is the expansion. And you need to be grateful with however it expands. So let me personalize this. When I first started writing, okay, and if you look at me today and you go to FeedSpot, which I think is the number one ranker of sites, that's just my personal opinion. I'm the number 3 rated leadership website in the world, number 1 life leadership, number 1 coaching leadership. Okay. And they rank it on a whole bunch of other stuff, including freshness. I don't even know what that means, but my daughter's impressed. Okay. Let me explain something on that. That's what people see today. When I first started out, we got a new owner at InJoy Stewardship. And he goes, okay, everybody, there's this new thing out called Twitter. Pastors are on it. I want everybody to get a Twitter account. I want you to tweet once a day, and this guy named Adam has to approve it before you send it out. By the way, I think we'd probably be in a better place if people were approving tweets before they were sent out. Yeah. But that's what it was. Well, I'm a good soldier. I'm a good soldier. So yes, I would do that. And so Adam would approve my 1 tweet per day. And then it got to the point that I'm like, okay, I want to say something that takes longer than 140 characters. So back then there was this thing called Twit Wall. you wrote a paragraph and it would give the first part and then a hyperlink to the rest of the paragraph. Well, then it got to a point of, okay, I want to write more than one paragraph. So I got a website. Okay. And I didn't even have the URL yet. It was briandoddonleadership.wordpress.com. Okay.
I remember that.
Yep. And so I would write. Well, I wrote my first article, and a good friend of mine named Chad Auckland, he subscribed to the site that day. I call it a mercy killing. He got me off zero. Okay. It was 6 months before I got my second subscriber. 6 months.
Yeah.
And so I just wrote because I loved it. And I remember reading one day, you're not a serious blogger until you get 500 readers a day. And I don't know if that person was reputable or not, but I remember reading that and I was like 30 a day. And I was like, my heavens, I mean, I'll never do anything like that.
Yeah.
And I just wrote because I loved it. And then, of course, over time, God, through his graciousness, and I can give a couple of tips on how to grow your audience, but yeah, it grew. And then it became a couple of coaching courses and 5 books and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff. But all of that happened just because of faithfulness, and then it compounded over time.
Yeah.
So for anybody who says, look, I don't have much, I don't know that many people, I don't know anything, I would say whatever God's given you and whatever message he's put in your heart, you be faithful with that message and don't give up on it. Because all creatives will tell you, especially I think Thomas Edison made it famous. Most people give up right before their good ideas about to break.
Yeah.
And just be faithful, provide quality content, serve people, help people, and let God grow your platform. And yeah. I am exhibit A of that philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no doubt about it that makes all the difference in the world. Well, as I've been going through this process with folks over the last several months, I started out and, after about 5 or 6 episodes, I realized there was a couple questions I needed to ask everybody that I wasn't asking. It was missed opportunity. So I've made a point to make sure I ask these questions. And the first one is, how has your faith grown and changed over the years as you've gotten older? What's different about it now than it was, say, when you were 25, 30, 35?
Yeah, the Bible is not a reference tool. It is the foundation of my life.
Yeah.
That would be number one. The Word of God, the Bible is God's spoken word on paper. It determines everything I do.
Yeah.
Okay. That is number one. Interestingly, too, the older you get, and I'll just use this term, the closer you get with God, the more you realize your distance from him.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic. And the older you get, as your walk just matures, you realize your desperate need for a savior. And look, the people you have on here, we all talk leadership. Hopefully we sound competent. Hopefully we help people. There are days that I can't lead myself out of bed without the help of God, and there's just days like that. And the older I get, the ultimate dependence on him. And I'll tell you this, I don't know about you. I am a huge Chosen fan. Love it. And there are scenes in Chosen when Jesus is dealing with people and how he looks at them with such love and compassion. And look, my wife and my family do the best they can, but we are human, I long for the day that I get to see somebody look at me like that. Mm. And that's as I've grown older in my faith. Also, hopefully I've grown more patient with the younger people, because I remember when I was like that. And so I'm going to use a Bible term now. yeah, you got to learn to let sanctification do its work. Let God grow them up.
Yeah.
Let them learn from their mistakes. You made them too, by the way, and here you are.
That's right.
And so, yeah, I think in terms of my relationship with Jesus, it's nowhere near where I want it to be.
Yeah.
But praise the Lord, it ain't nowhere near where it used to be.
That's
and
right.
So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Yeah, you echoed something that has been said. You know, a lot of us, I think, have that epiphany of, the closer I get, or the more I learn about God, the more I realize I don't have a clue. Like the more I realize I don't know. And so it is that sort of dichotomy of I am closer and I know more than I've ever known, and I'm closer with him and love him more than ever. But also I realize I'm so far away. But right. It is one of those ironies of the gospel. And then the last thing I would ask you is, just as we're kind of wrapping up, if you could just say one thing to this audience, to people like you and me who are looking for inspiration, to be challenged, to be encouraged, to say, hey, you're not done. You've got a lot of opportunity in front of you. What would you say to them just to encourage them as we wrap it up?
Yeah, I would say exactly what you just said. We're not done, and we have a lot of opportunity. And, we hear it a lot. Once again, we've all been to the same conferences. We all listen to the same people. We all know all the catchphrases. God doesn't waste opportunity. God doesn't waste experience. I mean, we've all heard it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the reason we've all heard it is it's actually true.
That's right.
And we have a lot of experience and we have a lot of wisdom, and we've learned to rely on God at levels we never have before. And we have learned our insufficiencies, and we have learned our desperate need for him. And we've learned from all those experiences, and that knowledge and that wisdom is critical and vital to the success of the next generation, and is meant to be passed down. Here's the interesting thing about wisdom, Mark. It's only wisdom if it's shared.
Mm. Yeah.
It's just simply experiences if it's not shared. But it's only wisdom if it's shared. So everything you've gone through, who's ever listening to this, you are perfectly designed and created and have had the experiences needed to help somebody else who's going to go through the exact same thing. Your life is unique, but it's also not unique, if I can say that.
Sure.
So that would be the thing that I would say. And look, I'll tell you this, and I'm going to be 100% transparent. I'm really wrestling with my 60s. I'm about to enter.
Yeah.
And here's where I'm wrestling, Mark. I know all the Bible catchphrases. I know the leadership catchphrase. I know your harvest is in your 60s. I know if you've lived your life right and grown, your greatest impacts in your 60s. I know all this. But as I stand on the precipice about to head into it, I'm going, okay, my career's going to be winding down in my 60s. I'm probably going to have to bury both of my in-laws in my 60s. My dog's definitely dying in the next decade. These are just things I know about.
That's right.
Okay. And I'm sitting there going, we're going to have some big mountains to climb this next decade. So I'm wrestling with, God, you've been faithful for 60 years. I know you've got this. I know you've got the next 10 years. I know you're going to use me at a level I can't even imagine. Lord, help me with my unbelief, because I'm seeing the mountains and, help me with my unbelief. Help me take those next steps. So mentally and spiritually, those are kind of the things I'm wrestling with.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely see how it plays out. Invite me back in 10 years and we'll play this little clip and go, Brian,
right.
How did it go for you?
That's right. Well, hopefully it won't be 10 years. Hopefully it'll be sooner than that. But I would love to have you back and just to keep talking about the topic and what you're learning and as we keep having these epiphanies and different experiences. And I'm excited for you, and I hear you. I see where you're looking at going. There's going to be some tough spots, but with all that you're learning and the posture of your heart to help younger people and all the things, like I'm also just equally excited or more excited about how the great things that are going to happen in the years to come in your work, outside your work, and your other things that you're putting your hand to. I really believe it's going to be awesome. And again, man, I'm so honored that you would take the time to be on here today and share this wisdom. And now that you put it out there, it is wisdom. Share that wisdom with the folks who are listening and watching. I know it's going to encourage a lot of people. Brian, tell the audience how they can find you, what your websites are, or emails, or books they can order. Like how can they find and get more from Brian Dodd?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my website's briandoddonleadership.com. And I usually put up about 5 or 6 leadership articles a week. So if you've enjoyed this, love to keep investing in your leadership through that channel. I'm still a little old school. I love Twitter. I know I'm going down with the ship on that, or it's actually X now, but I'm going down with the ship at Brian K. Dodd, BrianKDod, as in David, D as in David. And my books, love to invest with you in the books. Amazon, obviously, you can get my books through my website, but Amazon, particularly my last 2 books, Mighty, which for church leaders is a study of David's mighty men, great small group material for men. And also, if you're a business leader, you can do it with your staff. If you're a pastor or an executive pastor and business administrator, you can do it with them, and then they can do it with their lay people. And my most recent book was The Games Leaders Play was my most recent book. And I'm biased, but I think they're great books, obviously. And I'd love to invest with you in those resources as well. But anybody on here, if I can ever serve you or the people you influence, or just, have some impact on you in any capacity, reach out to me through those channels. I'd be honored to do so.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll definitely put all that in the show notes as well, so everybody can look there if they can't remember all that, but they'll be able to find you and get those resources.
Well, Mark, I want to, look, once again, we're in the same space. I really admire people that serve churches. I admire how they're wired, how God called them into that. And you've been a faithful servant for a number of decades, my friend. I've always admired you. I consider you a dear friend. You're in Alabama. I'm across the state line in Georgia, but you got somebody cheering for you about 3 hours away. And just thank you for the invitation. It's been an absolute joy and honor to invest in your audience. And thank you for your decades of faithful service serving Christian leaders everywhere. So thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Hey, I hope you got as much out of that as I did. What an amazing guy, an amazing interview. Hey, stay tuned over the next several weeks. We're going to have some fun doing some different things. Like I told you, I've got some things I want to share with you. And you're not going to miss any guests, but do go back and try to hear some of the ones you've missed. And then starting in the first week of January, we have an incredible episode coming up with, I think, everybody's favorite guest, my wife, Jenda, is going to be with me. We're going to talk about planning your year and what we do as a couple to spiritually plan, financially plan, dream, all the things that we do going into a year. We want to share that process with you. I hope it'll be a great encouragement to you as you start your new year. As always, please like, subscribe, follow, comment. Let us know that you're out there. Let us know that you're listening and watching. And have a great holiday and a Merry, Merry Christmas. And we love you, and we will see you soon.